Hello and a very warm welcome to this special. India have beaten Afghanistan by a massive 66 runs, and with that finally have gotten into the positive territory of the net run rate, which augurs well for India. Even if there is that slim hope for them to go through to the last four, this is one step in that direction. But it was a complete demolition of the Afghani bowling and the team itself. Indian batsmen got off to a good start, something that they've struggled with in the tournament, and from there on they scored the biggest ever score of the tournament, getting to 210 for 2 and second highest ever total in T20 World Cups. Indian batsmen were finally doing what we've seen them do in the past, what was expected of them, but towards the second half of the inning, it was really about the net run rate. Both teams were trying to, better that net run rate, with Afghanistan trying to get to as much of a total as they can, whereas India were trying to get the wickets. It did become quite one-sided, but India would be happy with this win. They needed it. They were desperate for a win in the tournament. So in the end, a good win for India, an emphatic win.
An emphatic win on the eve of Diwali.
Yes.
A big morale boosting win. The spirits would be high. Still, their hopes depend on the match on the 7th between Afghanistan and New Zealand. Everything else is secondary. Afghanistan has to beat New Zealand for India to qualify, and then net run rate will come into play. India did almost everything right today. The batting had let them down against Pakistan and New Zealand, and they completely dominated the Afghanistan bowling today. Couldn't have asked for anything more than 210. The bowling also, it was a collective effort. Our Ashwins stood out.
Yes.
And overall, I think India would be really, really happy. They'll take a day off tomorrow, I assume, for Diwali. And 5th, they have a match against Scotland. So, yeah.
Like we were saying before the match began, that a win here does not guarantee anything in terms of getting a place into the semi-finals. Yes, what it does is that it gives you a step in the hope that maybe you can get through to the semi-finals. But with your fate already being in the hands of Afghanistan and New Zealand, it wasn't much in terms of what they can do with the win. But what this win has done for them is, number one, maintain that reputation that we've been talking about, because of the kind of criticism that this Indian team has got after the 2 losses against Pakistan and New Zealand. Here, they've come back emphatically, have silenced some of those people who've been criticizing them because of the kind of performance that they have put in. One thing, Nikhil, being the openers and how good they were right from the word go. Yes, little cautious in the beginning because they know what has happened to them in the past. So, we're treading cautiously in the beginning. But once they got going, the kind of flow we saw from both the openers, absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. I mean, Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul were short of runs, but both of them, gave it their best today. Rohit Sharma's highest impact performance in a World T20 since 2014 in a World T20. Also, I mean, this was the second best opening partnership for India in a World T20 since Gambhir and Sehwag in 2007. So, once that happened, then everything else followed. Hardik Pandya and Rishabh Pant played their role as finishers perfectly, both producing excellent cameos at the death. And, India scored above 200, the first team to do so in this tournament. And the rest of the match was a mere formality, Maya.
Yeah. Virat Kohli in the post-match presentations talked about how the wicket was much better, and towards the end that net run rate did come into play, and spoke about how the other teams have bowled really well to them and how they were always positive and thinking about what they can do. But the one thing that he mentions that we've got to talk a little bit more about is the return of Ravichandran Ashwin, and I think that is one thing that he would have realized as well, because of the kind of difference Ashwin made instantaneously. As soon as he was brought into attack, you saw Afghanistan struggling.
Absolutely. Experience, class, pedigree. 4 overs, 14 runs, 2 wickets in a match where India has scored above 200. Almost every other bowler has gone for runs. 3.5 runs per over. Sensational bowling by Ashwin in the middle overs. And he just showed, what he's made of. And also, did India miss a trick? It raises that question. Did India miss a trick by not playing him against Pakistan and New Zealand? But it's too late for that. They can only hope. They definitely play him now against Namibia and Scotland. And they'll only hope they again get a chance to play him, against a big team in the semi-final.
Yeah. And the other thing is that I know that it's a day before Diwali, it's an evening before Diwali, and this did turn out to be a cracker of a match. And something that I think fans would derive whatever little joy they can, because at the end of the day, a win is a win, even if it's come against Afghanistan, even at this point when India is hanging by a thread. Their fortune in this World Cup is hanging by a thread. But I think at the end of the day, it is still a win, Nikhil, and should be celebrated. And it's a very emphatic win, as we said. Afghanistan was a team that looked good. India were down and out, as we said, down in the dumps after having those two thrashings from Pakistan and New Zealand. The pressure was on this team, but they've really come back good, and this will give them confidence and maybe that slight little hope that, in case Afghanistan do end up beating New Zealand, there is a chance they can get in.
Absolutely. A lot of pundits, friends of mine, were saying India will lose to Afghanistan. They'll be thrashed by Afghanistan. Afghanistan is in great form. So that way, it is a very good win by the Indian team against Afghanistan on the eve of Diwali. And also, Afghanistan will feel hurt after this loss. So they might come up with a spirited performance in their next game against New Zealand, which helps India. So all to look forward to in the coming week.
The other thing also, let's stick a little bit on India's bowling.
Yeah.
Ashwin did make a difference, but what about the other bowlers? I thought Mohammad Shami, once again, not too good with his line and lengths.
Yeah.
He did get wickets, but there is that concern. Shardul as well went for runs. Today was a day that belonged to Ravichandran Ashwin. And yes, Virat Kohli has said it in the pre-match, in the post-match presentation, that he's very happy. That's one positive that he's happy about. But there are those concerns for them.
There are some concerns. Bumrah was restrictive, 4 overs 25. Jadeja was restrictive in the middle overs. A little concern over Shami's economy rate.
Right.
He's picked up some wickets, but he's going for a few boundaries, bowling a bit here and there. Also, Thakur is a bit expensive. I don't know if India has many other options left.
Because I felt like at one point when you'd got their openers out early, that you could have restricted them to a total below 100.
Yeah.
But they did go to 140. And I know that India are happy with this win, but they would have wanted, their net run rate would have gotten better had it been below 100. In fact, better than Afghanistan.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, India would have hoped they bundle Afghanistan for less than 100. I don't know. I think the only change they can make is, to draft in a reserve player in the 11. Maybe someone like a Deepak Chahar, who's an experienced T20 bowler. He swings the new ball. Apart from that, I don't think that will happen, though. I think they will go in, with the same set of bowlers. They may again give a chance to the mystery spinner Varun Chakravarti. Especially against Namibia and Scotland, they can really, they don't know who Varun Chakravarti is, and they're used to pace bowling. So Thakur may not play, Chakravarti might play. That may just, only change.
The one good thing is that Virat Kohli and this team has gone against the trend of if you're chasing, you have the upper hand of winning. And I think that's also because of how dominant they were right from the start. When you get to a total of 210, it's especially on pitches like the ones that we have seen in the UAE, instantly you put your opposition under pressure, and that's what happened with Afghanistan. Once the openers got out, you just knew it was a one-way traffic for India.
Yeah, absolutely. India covered for the, batting second part, batting first part, and they scored those extra 50 runs. And, when you score 200 plus, it doesn't make a difference if you bat first or bat second. You will win most matches.
Tell me one thing, though. I know this is a bit of a debate that was going on in the newsroom. Was that catch by Jadeja catch or not? Was the umpire being too harsh? Because I've seen on social media a lot of players coming out and talking about how they thought that was a poor decision. And I always feel that when you have a slow-mo, it does tend to make it seem like the balls touched the ground. What was your take on it? Did you think, because with that, Shami could have gotten a hat-trick. And that would have been, I think for me, one of the best catches of the tournament.
Undoubtedly. See, if I don't see the replay, that was out for me. First track. If I see the replay, I thought the ball is touching the ground. Now, as you're right, some of these catches, they make you feel, when you see on replays, the ball is touching the ground real time. It's a difficult one. I won't be very harsh on the umpire. It could have gone either way. I would have been happy with either decision.
Okay, Rashid Khan in the post-match presentation has spoken about how this pitch was not an easy one for the spinners, and we did realize this straight as we got into the match. There was a flatter track, and that's why it becomes so much more important, the role of our Ashwin.
Absolutely. Even on a flatter track, the way he bowled, absolutely brilliantly, because he has his variations. He was coming from wide of the crease. He was, he was bowling the carom ball. He was bowling his conventional off spin. Ashwin has a very good T20I record.
But that's what I'm saying. Today, what you saw was, because what Ashwin was doing today is what Rashid has done so far in the tournament,
Absolutely.
where you felt like on every ball he was going to get a wicket. Though Rashid was taken to the cleaners today, but Ashwin wasn't. And somewhere, I think, I know hindsight's always 20/20, but somewhere India would be regretting that decision of not playing him earlier on.
Absolutely. He should have played from match one. We've been harping on this. Get Ashwin, against left-handers, experience. But, you can't go back in time. They can only hope, as I said, that they somehow make it to the semis, and then Ashwin comes into play against the big teams.
That's true. I mean, India do have 2 matches where they can better their net run rate and then hope that on November 7th, Afghanistan beat New Zealand by a slender margin, and then who knows, maybe they can sneak into the last 4. But in the end, India had to do what was under their control, which was to register a big win against Afghanistan, which they did. It has been a good comeback for this team, and Afghanistan, mind you, is a good team. They've got a great record in the UAE. They've got world-class spinners in Rashid Khan. Mujibur Rahman wasn't playing today, but there was Mohammad Nabi. We know the kind of damage Afghanistan can do to teams who are trying to make it into the last 4. Like what Pakistan faced at one point, you felt like that Afghanistan would have beaten Pakistan. So this was an important win for India. Of course, whether it's come too late, that is something that we know, we can discuss that. But in the end, it was important, and thankfully they've got that win, so that's good. We leave you with this, that it's Happy Diwali for all of you, and it was a cracker of a match. Given that it's Diwali, it was befitting that we got this kind of performance from this Indian team. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.